Okay, hi. So actually, coming to a conference is always a good excuse because then my husband has to wake up with the cats and not me, so I can sleep in the next day. So that's always a really good thing. Hi, hello. I'm super happy to be here with you today. And I must say that I feel a little bit like an odd duck because you are more working with technology or like high tech. I used to work with high tech for many, many years. My career started with Philips Research and then with Osei Technologies Research. I've been at Google in its early days when Zurich office had 400 engineers and 7 of us UX designers and researchers. And over time, I moved more towards trying to understand not necessarily what technology does, but also to understand what kind of influence it can have on people. And, you know, as I've been looking at this world for quite a few years by now, I realized that when I came to this profession, when I came to a profession of it wasn't even called UX at the time. It was actually called interaction design or usability engineering. We, the people who started doing these things, we wanted to have positive impact on the world. And that was for a very long time the drive that we all had. And I'm guessing that probably that might be something that you resonates with you. Does it resonate with you at all or not? Yes? No? Yeah? Okay. So basically, you know, we started with this thought, and you know, like I've been working there early days, so we were just trying to make the computers work decently enough. That was already a big change to bring to the world. However, at some point, we realized, me and my colleagues and my friends, that instead of changing the world, we became the cogs in the machine. So we became the people who were building more business, making rich people even richer, and this whole idea of changing the world and making it a better place somehow got lost. And I talked to a lot of people. I was also doing a lot of research about that, and I realized that this is not me. This is not just us. There's actually quite a lot of people who feel that, who have an impression that maybe as a creative profession, and for me, creative profession is both design, meaning UX design or experience design, but it's also programming and coding and software engineering. For me, all this is creation. That we kind of, you know, like lost something there along the way. That we started to feed the machine that we wanted to break for a bit. And that was, this conclusion is very much enforced by a report. I don't know if you heard about it, but it's called the Meaningful Brands Report. It's a report that is being created by an agency called Havas. The report is being created for 12 years. It comes every year. And they are trying to see how customers react to the different brands and what is their relationship with the brands. And usually the relationship with the brands that we've got is very transactional, meaning that as long as they are either the cheapest or the most convenient, we're gonna be around. But if something cheaper or more convenient comes along, we just pack our bags and go. And basically, this is something that is this attitude towards brands, towards products, towards solutions, towards anything that we create as this creative community that we are here, it's actually growing. So people are saying, okay, you know, I'm not talking about big bankruptcy here. I'm just talking about one company buying another or one company disappearing slowly and painfully and then, you know, like fades away and is gone and then someone else comes to its place. People basically say that they just don't care. They don't give a shit, to be perfectly honest. And these two guys, this is Joe Pine and Jim Gilmore, they were asking this question many, many years ago. They actually asked this question for the first time in 1993. And they were trying to understand what kind of, like, what brings value to the perception of us as customers, and what makes what we create be valuable for the people who are going to use these things. They created this model, which they actually they got it figured out really smartly, because they started analyzing this whole thing from pre-industrial era. So they were looking how flour was being sold, or milk, like all this stuff. And they realized that these things were commodities, right? So that was something like you didn't care which cow gave you the milk, you just wanted the milk. Then the Industrial Revolution came, and Henry Ford probably at some point said, hey, if I created for tea, I'd like people, the customers, to know that this is for tea and not another kind of car. Like, I want to have a brand here. So he started producing goods. And goods is something that, like fridges and cars and clothes, this is all goods. And this era of goods was lasting for a long time because there was no other way to basically create a relationship with customers. So basically the brands at the time, the only way to communicate with the customers was to advertise to them. So they were telling all those, brand stories and creating advertisement to convince the customers that the product of Philips was better than the product of Samsung, and so on and so forth. And then internet came. It was very interesting, because suddenly companies realized that instead of creating goods and fingers crossed that the customer comes and buy another fridge from me and not from the competition, they could actually build a relationship with the customer. So they could actually create a communication line by which they were able to have a conversation with the customers and to build sort of a relationship. So basically a lot of companies move to services, and this is where we are today. So basically where we are today, we are in a world where thanks to the internet, or like not every company, but a lot of companies create a relationship that allows them to have a communication with their customers. The problem is that customers actually want to communicate. Those bastards, they really want to have a conversation with the company because they have a problem, they have a trouble, they would like to get an advice, and therefore they are willing to have that interaction. And companies don't want to have interactions because they want to have a lot of customers and they don't want to be bothered by them. So basically they are trying to scare those communication away, and they are trying to create it very one-directional. So I'm sending you all the ads, I'm giving you all the emails, the offers or whatever it is, but don't call me. Don't call me. Read the regulations, read the privacy stuff, and if you didn't read, too bad for you. So basically, this is the situation when we are now. And experiences, which is my job, is the next stage. So basically, you create something that builds the emotional relationship with the customers. I don't want to talk about that today, though. If you have questions about it, you can ask me later. And what Joe and Jim said, that the last stage after experience design, so creating this emotional connection through differentiators and through different ways of making customers feel appreciated, is transformations. Transformations means that I get something that changes who I am, that makes me the better version of myself. So the easiest way to think about it is a conference like this, right? You come here, you learn something, you come up, hopefully the better version of yourself, not the worst one. It might happen too, but hopefully not. So when I was thinking about this model that Joe and Jim created, that I just very briefly went through for you, I've been thinking about this dude. Who knows who that is, by the way? Any guesses? Huh? Oh, close. No, not Plato? None? Oh, Aristotle. Yes, this is Aristotle. Yeah, but generally I was in the space of philosophy, so that's good enough. So basically, Aristotle had this theory that there are two ways that make people happy, and one of them is hedonism. So basically, when we get stuff that makes us feel good about ourselves, we are getting something which is called the momentary happiness. And now if you think about the model that I just presented to you, all these elements, the commodities, the goods, the services, the experiences, and the transformations are about us, the humans. They make us feel better about ourselves. And as I was talking to Joe at some point, Joe said to me that he thinks that transformation is the last stage of economic progression because transformation is something that you have control of, and the rest, as he said, these are his words, not mine, the rest is in the hands of God. And I felt really uneasy about it. I thought, like, seriously? Like, you know, maybe there's something more. Maybe there's a way to think about it, especially when, and I come back to the Havas report again, especially when you look at the data that says that people want companies to deliver something more than just solve their problem. That people are looking for companies that are going to give them a reason to stick with them rather than to have this transactional relationship when I get what I want and I leave. So basically, that was something that was really, and this is growing, by the way. Like this is, I'm looking at this report for quite a few years already, and basically I can see that change happening over and over again. So basically I was thinking, okay, is there anything else? And here comes Aristotle again. He said that, okay, one part of human happiness is hedonism, and this is the momentary happiness, but there's the other part of human happiness, which is called eudaimonia, which basically means that I'm happy because I contribute to a greater good. I do something that goes beyond me and, again, makes this place slightly better through my actions. And by the way, research on well-being and fulfillment shows that hedonism and the hedonistic things like buying yourself coffee gives you a momentary uplift, emotional uplift, mood uplift. But if you buy that coffee for someone else, you are much happier, much longer. So basically, if we do stuff for other people, we are actually longer happier, which is an interesting thing to think about. So then I started asking myself this question, okay, if this is all hedonistic, and if we go through a transformation, so I change, and I am not the person that I've been before when I entered the room, what do I do it for? What is the reason why I wanted to change in the first place? And that got me to thinking about something that perhaps instead of thinking that the rest is in the hands of God after transformation happened, maybe we could, as humans, think of using that transformation that we've created in ourselves to change the world around us in a way that's worthwhile. So if you think about it, the model that Joe and Jim created was all about hedonistic approach. It was about me. But the impact stops being about me and starts being about the world. And actually, again, coming back to Hava's report, this is something that a lot of people expect. There is actually a growing expectation from the customers that companies are not only delivering products, but they are actually doing something good for the society and the planet. And if you think about it from the very economic perspective, there are certain sensibilities things that people react to. And if you think about commodities, it was availability. The milk was there, I bought it. When goods appeared, it was about the cost. So it was okay, it was like affordable enough, value for money sort of situation, I took it. Services, it started with quality, that's a bit of a problem there right now. Experiences were about, or are about authenticity. So like I feel that I'm being seen as human. Transformations are about meaning, so they are actually meaningful to me, they mean something to me. But this impact, it is about the values. And the values is the deepest thing that we've got in ourselves. This is something that actually drives us so deeply that if you have a conflict of values with someone else, this is an unresolvable conflict. So then when you think about it from the business perspective, because like I told you, this model is an economic progression model, you see that in commodities, you get the stuff, right? You get what you need, you don't care much about where it comes from. With goods, you get things. With services, you get activities. With experiences, you actually get time, so your time is being well spent. with transformations, you get the outcomes. You actually changed, and you see that your life is changed and it's different from what it was before. But with this positive impact and leveraging it, you actually see a change in the world. And I've been actually pondering all this stuff for actually quite a few years now. I'm actually quite stressed because this is the first time that I'm talking about publicly, to be perfectly honest. I wrote about it, but I never spoke about it. And the thing was that when I was thinking about it, I was, I have a PhD. I am a scientist. I also worked in research. So for me, I'm always looking for proof and for falsification of my assumptions and the ways of thinking. And I wrote an article about it, and I wrote it in January this year. It got published late January this year. And I was really thinking, okay, am I right about it? Am I not fantasizing and being an optimist? That's my quality, internal quality. So I was kind of worried about it a little bit. And then there came 24th of February, and we could actually see that happening in Poland. So if you look at the behavior of people who stopped going to the shops that stayed in Russia, it was actually quite striking. Suddenly, I don't want to go into all the changes that happened and what happened, which was really amazing and that made me super proud of Poles and Poland. But actually, this was very interesting. The problem was the question whether it's gonna stick. So, like, are people going to stick to that behavior? That changed a little bit over time. This is the newest data that I found that's available. But actually, you can see that there are shops that are still not or less frequently visited. And I actually heard from a person from one of those companies that they are losing millions daily simply for the fact that we as customers, or many of us as customers, voted with our money for the impact that we wanted to create. So we said, okay, like, we are not going to support those particular brands. And this is an extreme situation, and I do hope that these kind of situations are not going to test us much often. But actually, there's more to that. There is a generational change that is happening. And I'm late X, but I'm still an X, although I think that I'm more, in my mind, millennial sort of thinking. But I would like to ask you, who is an X? Hands up. Okay. Yeah, quite a few. Who is, and by the way, we X's are screwed because we were raised by baby boomers, and we were also managed by baby boomers who are very much focused on money. So we actually have a major mental shift to do. Who are the millennials? Hands up. Cool. Okay. And who are the Zs? Cool. Thank you. So actually, there is already a huge change between the X's and the millennials. The millennials, and this didn't happen in Poland as much as it happened in other countries. So actually, all over the world, the millennials are the first generation that has their life circumstances worse than their parents. So basically, while X's were on the rise and they were getting the houses and the cars and like all the goods, the millennials are in a situation with the screwed up environment, with very high costs of housing, no ability to buy the house, and so on and so forth. In Poland, it's slightly different. In like Eastern Europe is different because of the shift that we've got historically and politically. We are, like, our millennials are not getting the same situation. Actually, the Zs are more in that situation than the millennials around the world. But actually, the millennials are already saying that they don't want that particular way of just being hedonistic. I don't know, the millennials in the crowd, do you agree with that or not really? No? Silence means that no? You don't agree. Anyway, we can have a discussion about that. Anyway, but with the Gen Z, the interesting thing is that, at least that's what the reports show, is that the Gen Z definitely puts very much impact on the values the companies have. So basically, they want to support, they may not often be able to afford it yet, but as they come to the money, this will probably be a huge change. But basically what they say that they are looking for sustainable business practices. They are looking for ethical business practices. They are looking for inclusivity. And they are looking for shared values. And they want to make their choices, their customer choices, and their work choices as well, by the way. So this is not only about buying, this is also about choosing the companies that they want to work for based on those values. And then if you look at this, and this is interesting because what it shows is that millennials already changed from the X's, but the Gen Z is even further from the millennials. So basically, they are even more focused on sustainability and inclusion. And they are looking for companies that live by those values, not just talk about the values. We had a lot of companies that talked about values but not necessarily live by that and proved that they didn't live by those values. But actually, if they see that companies live by those values, they are actually willing to work for those companies and they are willing to buy from those companies. So the thing is that what I'm telling to you, it might sound like a bit of rambling, like, you know, like what are you talking about? Like, what world are you coming from? But basically, that future that I'm talking about is already here. It's just not evenly distributed. So we may not always see these things yet. But actually, I don't know if you heard, do you know Patagonia? Who knows Patagonia? Hands up. Okay, thank you. So actually, Patagonia is the early bird, like probably a very early bird. But actually, I don't know what happened last week, but Patagonia decided that they are not going to do business anymore. They are turning into foundation. Their owner, so basically, they are going to still produce the business, the products that they are creating, but all of their profit is going to go for saving the planet. And they actually made that decision. They withdrew from all the business activities. They actually turned the whole business into two foundations. And they are changing the whole way of operating. A year ago, what they did, that was probably the preparation, I'm guessing, but they said, we are not about profit. We are not a company that's going to grow ever again. They said, like, many companies say, like, 20% a year is the thing that we have to do. Like, we have to grow by 20%. They said, no, we don't. We actually can have a profitable business and good life without having to grow 20% every single year. And this is a huge change, and they are very consistent since the 70s in building that approach. And I think that they actually got to a point. I'm not sure whether they can surprise at least me anymore. Like, that was probably the pinnacle of what they could have, how they could have changed in terms of thinking and doing business. So here's the thing. Maybe we should, as the creative people in this room, we should start caring for the branch we are sitting on instead of sewing it. Because, like, right now, with the current very hedonistic approach to business, we are actually sewing the branch that we are sitting on number of levels, including the fact that we are cogs in the machine rather than the cogs that change the machine. So I never thought that I would say this in my over 20 years of practice, but I would like to say that we should stop being human-centric. We should stop caring about humans as they are the most important species in the planet. And certainly we shouldn't be code-centric. That was the slide that I just added when I was listening to the presentations, previous presentations. Because I agree with what and I'm never able to pronounce the name of Patagonia's founder, Ivan. Can someone help me? No? Okay. He has a French name, so forgive me for not remembering it. So basically what he says is that planet is our only stakeholder. And we as people who are sitting in this room, me as a designer and you as creative people being in your companies, you actually have the power to start changing this way of thinking from within. And you have the way to make that statement come true. So I would like to thank you very much. I don't want to stand anymore between you and beer or any other alcoholic beverages that are waiting there. Just one thing, both my publishers, they kindly offered discounts on the books. So if you are looking for the English version, you have 25% discount on both books on beastpublishers.com and 35% on MT Business, which is the Polish version. And by the way, MT Business offers the discount with Umami Rocks, not only for my book, which would be a pleasure if you wanted to buy it, but all the books that they have on offer. So if you are looking for some books from their stable, this is the offer that you can use for, and it lasts until the end of the week. Okay, so thank you again, and any questions?
Thank you. I think we have some time, so don't be shy.
Yeah, I rushed through this. I realized, oh, that's my nerves. I always rush when I'm a little bit nervous.
Not sorry for being a little cynical, but the research you showed about the purpose for the people that are important for them, the values and so on, isn't that just for making more money by the corporations? Because we can see that some corporations show some values in Europe, but they don't show it in the other places on Earth. And for example, Patagonia example, for what I heard, the person running that foundation will be the nephew of the previous owners. You know, it's just the smokes and mirrors, things of making people like feel good because on the tip of the iceberg they have their values, but this research is only that the corporation make more money.
Mm-hmm. Very good question. So first of all, Patagonia is family run. They have the right to put anybody they want. And if the person was prepared to do it, why not? Might be a better person than anybody else. So that's not up to me to judge that. I just don't have the data to actually answer that question, whether this is nepotism or whether this is actually a smart choice based on the fact that the guy was prepared for taking this role for many, many years. We don't know that, right?
But it's still not changing the ownership by the people who run it.
Why should it?
Yeah, we're talking about the Patagonia owner, like,
Mm-hmm.
put out the company to the foundation.
No, he created a foundation out of his company. So he's not there to earn more money. He's not there to get richer. He wants to earn more money to put it for a good cause.
Yeah, but still the owners will get the money somehow.
Yes. Okay. Let me use the probably better known example of Bill Gates and his foundation. So basically, what he did, he earned shitload of money on Microsoft, and he put it in a foundation. Yes, he could have kept it for himself and do the Bezos, Branson, Musk situation with right? But he decided, okay, instead of building another rocket, he's going to put money to help different nations, in Africa, so that they actually have more equality for their life, right? So for me, the same situation is with Patagonia and with their owners. They have a multi-billion company right now in their hands, which is like super known. People buy from them. They pay actually a lot of money for their products. They could have built another rocket or the elevator to the moon or whatever. But they decided no, they are going to keep on saving the environment on this planet. So, it's always a choice. And I think that as humans, we are not perfect. And I think there's this statement which I really love, is the Japanese statement called wabi-sabi, which says that we are never perfect, but we can strive for excellence. And I guess that this is a bit of a situation that we are having here. But having said that, the thing is that, like yourself, as customers, as employees, we are like hound dogs. So if we see authenticity in these companies, we see it immediately, and they can fool it on us only for so long. So I think that the thing that I hope, and I'm looking forward to see changing, is that companies will have to keep on proving to us as customers, as employees, that this is not just empty words, and this is not just money business covered in a nicer wrap. And I'm working with quite some companies that are trying to do that. It's a huge change. It's a huge mental change. So it's not going to happen overnight. That's not going to happen. It's going to be stumbles and falls and probably, one step forward, 2 steps back, and so on and so forth. But, I'm working with strategies. I'm often working with the C-level. And before the pandemic, and I don't know whether pandemic had anything to do with it, but whenever I went to work on strategic work before the pandemic, companies were never interested in that. They would say like, yeah, this is the CSR, this is the SVG, no, leave it out. And I always bring that stuff because this is something that is important for me. And right now, whenever I go and work with companies, they actually take it on board, and they are sometimes very lost as how to make that change, because many of the bosses are the X generation, so they are still thinking the old way. But the thing is that this is not a topic that gets basically swept under the rug. It's being discussed, and it's being brought into strategic thinking. So I think that we just need to give it time. That would be my yes. And again, like I'm saying, this is our choice as well, because if we, and guys, you are the most wanted people as workers worldwide. So if you choose companies that are actually living by those values rather than not, hey, that's the change that we can make today, right?
Any other question? Oh, 2 more.
Okay, here you go.
Okay, so I have a question. When we were going up the chart of the type of, let's say, good that the company is providing us, first we were going with commodities. At the top we were going with transformations. I have a feeling that our position as someone who verifies how good we are getting is much harder than any. Because at the level of commodities, we could easily tell apart whether we have this cow or not. At the level of good, we could easily tell whether this milk is spoiled or not. But at the level of transformation, might we finally reach the state when we can say if the company is actually providing us with valuable thing?
That's a very good question. So first of all, what I want to say is that it's not like you skip all the other things and you go to transformations only. That happens in education, that can happen in education, but usually you have like a combination of these things with the different balance there. The transformation itself is not up to us. Transformation is something that's intrinsic to a human who is undergoing the transformation. We can create the conditions for the transformation to happen. Look, you can come, you are at this conference, you can come and listen to me and you can say rubbish. And you're just saying, oh my God, like what the hell is she talking about? Like, this is bullshit. And then I created a platform for something that is important for me, for you to hear out and think about. But if you don't want to hear it, I cannot change that, right? But if you want to listen to this message and you want to say, okay, like I want to be impacted by this, you can actually say, okay, like that, there is this interesting thing, and there is this interesting thing, and that small transformation happened. So as a designer, I create only a platform. Like the same with experiences. For experiences, I can only create a platform because this is you who is having an experience, not me. So I can use the different psychological tricks to create it in a way that actually is more likely that you are going to have an experience or a transformation. But that's not up to me whether this happens or not. Does it answer your question?
Actually, I was thinking more about that at the level of the previous levels. It was not that easy to provide us with faulty thing and make us think we are getting something of value. But with transformation, it might be a bit of cynical from some companies to provide us with something that will change us in a way that they want us to change just to be a more suitable consumer for them.
Absolutely, yes. Absolutely, I agree. the more complex you go with the economic offering, the more power you have over people to impact their way of thinking. Actually, one of the tools that is the experiential tool or research tool for experiences is psychographics. And we've seen what Cambridge Analytica did with it in 2016. So basically, yes, the tools and the ways and the models and the principles that designers, developers get when they are working on the higher levels of this model, it can be very manipulative. Absolutely, yes. That's why for already a long time we are having a discussion about the ethics of design and development. So basically, that was something that never been discussed when I was a student. That was, I think that's because we were fixing stuff. So basically, there was too much stuff to fix to actually try to make it worse, like in a sense, like manipulative. But right now, with technological development, yes, all of this can be used for good or for evil. And this is up to, again, us, as the people sitting here, to think about it actively and to control that and to, whistleblow when things are going the wrong direction. That's our job.
Yeah, I have maybe less cynical question, but I'm also worried a bit. So when I look at this ladder of progress, let's say, or civilizational achievements, I'm just wondering how stable those achievements are. Like,
sorry, I'm just trying to find it.
Yeah, but we know what we're talking about.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering how stable they are. So are they? Did we move up because recently for some period of time there was relatively peaceful situation in most of the world, and how much we can lose them suddenly, unfortunately, things happen like after the February 24th. So what's your feeling here? How much they will stay with us regardless of the situation?
I think that indeed the fact, so basically, like I said, what happened is like this is the pre-industrial era, right? So this is, people selling the flour from the mill and so on. This is the Industrial Revolution, and the whole development since then is the biggest development is the post-World War II situation. So basically when the economy was growing, different parts of the world in a different way, but basically, generally we had a fairly peaceful and prosperous world. That's why consumerism and that's why capitalism grew that strongly, especially because people were trying to get wealthy from the time when they were not. So that we always have this drive that we want to have a certain comfort of life for ourselves. The thing with this model is that when you look at it here, whenever you create the next level, these things get commoditized. So basically, commoditization means that you start fighting with the price. So basically, when goods were created, you would earn less money on commodities. When services were created, you earn less money on goods. When experiences are created right now, you earn less money on services. So the companies who are more experience-oriented, they are going to be able to charge more for their services compared to the people who are, to the companies that are just delivering services. So basically, naturally, because the business is looking for new ways to get wealthy, this is the 20% growth situation. Basically, companies are looking for new ways to customize their offering, so that basically make it more attractive for their customers. And that's why the ladder is growing. And so far, it is growing in a focused on basically giving us more in exchange for the money that we are having. So this is still this bilateral kind of conversation. You give me something that is valuable for me from my personal perspective, and I pay you for that. And basically, that kind of stimulates and propels this very consumerism, capitalistic approach to doing business, really. So basically, and you know, like we've been actually thinking whether there is a way to think like whether experiences and transformation is the only direction, whether that it can branch out into something else. We didn't come up with anything, so I don't know whether Joe and Jim were just spot on with this thinking or we don't see something there. However, if we keep on thinking in this particular model of earning more money, getting more value, getting richer, this is probably the natural way to go about that business. And now, if the world changes and if we have, which I hope is not going to happen, but it might, I think it will always depend on what state will be the post-state of whatever catastrophe we are having. So is there internet or not? If there isn't, probably we go back to commodities and goods. If there is internet, probably we stick to services and we start building from there, right? So I think that there is definitely the context impacts what is in the spotlight. However, right now, from what is being seen across the world, it looks like we are still moving up the ladder, so to experiences. I don't know if that answers your question. I'm speculating here very profoundly, so that's my guess, really.